Let me show these suckers how to ball out here. Oh, man, let's get this together here. Oh, layup. Oh, shot. Oh, three. Oh, it's like Brick City out here. Mid-range. Oh, my goodness. I can't buy a bucket out here. I missed the whole damn basket. Oh, my goodness. What's going on, man? My game is looking trash. Oh, here we go. Black Power Media shirt. Now we cooking. Trees. I'm taking on 3 of y'all with these right here. Between the legs. Oh, my goodness. Behind the back. Layup. Oh, did he just do a reverse? He is in beast mode out here. I ain't got to look. It's falling. Oh, my goodness. This guy is going 3, 2, 1. Kobe. Nice. Black Power Media, baby. Nice. Empower yourself. Go get you some of that Black Power Media again. Right here, blackpowermedia.org. Yeah.
Saturday with Renee. It's still cracking the giggles. What's up, world? We back again. It's Renee. It's Jared. It's Saturday. What's up? How you doing, Renee? Oh, you're muted.
Look at that. Messing up at the start.
Hey.
What's up? Good morning, peoples. Oh, look at everybody.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to those joining us live. Please do like, share, subscribe. Put this in your socials. Support the Patreon if you can. All the links are in the show description. We got a busy 2 hours before Warrior class at 1 o'clock.
My bad.
I mean, I try to be honest. I am underprepared. It was a lot of quick reading, no note taking, listening to articles, spoken to text to speech. Yeah. I was trying to consume as much as I could quickly, but
well, we went 2 weeks with guests and not going to the run sheet at all. So, it was all piling up in the background, marinating.
And shout out to everybody that joined us last week. The round table, that was dope.
Yeah. We're gonna have to do a part 2 of that. Definitely.
Oh yeah.
There was a lot left unsaid, I think, just because we just didn't get to it.
Yeah.
We just didn't get to it.
Yeah.
But I also think it would be valuable to do a similar roundtable, but bring on also like organizers, so we can have that conversation about how do you translate what you get in these spaces into doing something in the outside world that could have some, even if it's a minimal effect on material conditions, if it's doing something, I feel like it's worth having that conversation.
And I agree. I think that would be great. And by the way, just everybody, tentatively, nothing yet, was just sort of a soft targeting of April 6th, Saturday, for an in-person BPM gathering in DC for those who are able to get down this way. That's still being
hammered out.
It's a lot of moving parts.
That is a lot of moving parts. Although most people, I guess most of y'all are there, right? Like close to DC?
I wouldn't say most. I would say a good number. And it was thought that this would be a spot that people could most likely get to relatively quickly.
True.
Jalal is like, I'm sorry. I'm going to get out the chat here in a second, but Jalal is a little troll. And I've shown it. I got I will
With
quickly in a
show it,
second.
man.
I will find. I think it'll give me 1 second, but I will before the show's over. I will. If
There you go.
I think I got. Hold on a second.
My dad was in
Challenge
the
me.
Navy too, actually. So I have but he's obviously significantly older than you were. But his pictures in the Navy are also them suits, man.
I still have it's green, so it doesn't.
Oh
This
no,
is
you can see it. You can
my
see it.
yearbook. I still got my John F. Kennedy yearbook. Let's see here.
There we go.
Let's
While
see.
he's looking at that, thank you, Ricky. Ricky saying that this is like one of her highlights for her day is I'm for it. And so Monty said the same thing.
Oh, right on. Appreciate that.
Thank
out
you.
to Renee. Here we go. Let's see. There we go. You see that? Me holding a rifle there on the flight deck. Yeah. And as I've shared, I was a top gun because one of our jobs as a gunner's mate was we had to shoot the initial line across to do an underway replenishment. And you had to shoot with the rifle this projectile across to this other ship while you're moving with these two ships. So wasn't really difficult, but it's not the easiest thing either. And I did whatever number in a row or whatever, and I was a top gun. So that's one.
Ricky got choked.
Yeah, what is Ricky saying over there? Oh, hold
Ricky said there was too many lights and whites on that page for me to find you.
Oh, okay, here you go. So here I am right there.
That's wild.
And shout out to, this is my homeboy. He passed away a few years ago, Paul Fleming. Rest in peace, rest in power to Paul. That was my running mate for a long time. And this dude here, you see this white dude here, Furlong? He's still in, he's a chief. This dude is from Fordham Road in the Bronx.
Oh.
And he said he grew up in the same building with Alfonso, what's his name, who does the what's his name?
Alfonso
Carlton
Rivera?
Dance.
Oh,
the Carlton Dance.
Yeah.
And Jennifer Lopez was on their block too before she was famous.
He
pointed her out when she was a fly girl. Yeah. But yeah, so there you go. There, look,
you look so different. Like if you didn't say to me this was me, I would never pick that out and be like, that's Jared. Never.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. So yeah, man, shout out to, it was some wild times. And I've done a couple videos. People can check it out, E3 and below, where I talked about what my Navy movie would be like. So we could, folks really want to hear the full, at least some of the stories and some of the details. And then we had a follow-up with some other Black vets. People could check that out. But yeah. So yeah. There you go. So Jalal trolling. I'm and there's more. There's a couple more that I could find.
That's why, because what I tell you, people who knew me as 6, I could never get away with anything right now. I look literally exactly the same as I looked 45 years ago, like literally the same face with different hair. And so
no,
yeah, you could get away with a lot right now and people would never know that.
Yeah, it's been wild. And that's why the never finished memoir that I was supposed to be writing for my children was subtitled The Unblackening. Shout out to A Tribe Called Quest. But yeah, it was, because I mean, it's like I said, for the first 20 years or so, 25 years, a lot of people wouldn't believe me when I said my mother's white. Nowadays, almost nobody believes me when I say my father was Black. That's how I summarize the experience.
Ooh, that's wild.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
wild.
I did get paler. Yeah, I did. I used to have that permanent nice bronze, and then it would get to a nice golden bronze in the
It's
summer.
you gotta live somewhere hot, because then
Yeah.
the tan doesn't go away. You move too far north. That's the
But
problem.
then as I got older, I'm like, it's I guess one of the things with age is that I care less. And on some level, I'm more humble in some areas, but I'm more arrogant in others. And I'm like, I mean, even pale and bald. I'm like, I mean, come on now. Let's not get crazy. But no, I hear, yeah, it's what can I say? Part of it is I just don't care anymore. And it's too late. My wife already done fell for it. So
She's stuck now.
it's too late. So
Wild. Wildness. Wild. Oh man.
All right. So we're 11 minutes. We gave folks 11 minutes of silliness.
All right. So
And
there's
jokes
a lot,
on
man.
Jared. Yeah.
It's
Where do you
a
wanna
lot.
start?
But so real quick. So
Yeah.
don't get mad at me. So I added
Okay.
one last thing, but there's a
Mhm.
reason I added it. So on the very bottom, line 18. This
You
is out
heard,
of
I just want everybody to hear that. Line 18.
Oh.
I just want everybody, I want to let that marinate.
I mean,
we played
it
this.
was a lot.
Oh, we played this on the remix.
Oh, good. All right. So folks have heard it then.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we can play it again, but
this,
I haven't followed it. Sorry. I'm sorry. Let me stop.
No, you're good. You're good. This is the problem, right? Like when you look in every system, every district, every council, everything, right? This is what is happening behind the scenes. And this is what we are literally fighting on a regular basis, because this is what's happening that we are not privy to because we are not on these phone calls, right? So sorry for those of you who watch Remix and already heard this, but we could just play.
You know, I seriously don't understand why I have to constantly put up with these dumbasses here every day. Between these ungrateful black kids who can't test their way out of a paper bag, or these teachers who don't get it, how hard is it to get these students to meet their grade level expectations? Lawrence and Ravenel should have never been hired. And don't let me get started on DJ. I'm going to drag his black ass out of here one way or another. I'm going to get something to stick. I'm just so sick of the inadequacies of these people. And if I have to get one more complaint from one more Jew in this community, I'm going to join the other side. Kathy, I'm done.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
Not I'm going to join the other side. Dude, you already on the other side. What are you joining?
If we can, I just want to throw out again. I haven't followed up, and as they reported at that time, it had not been verified. There was some questions raised about the authenticity of it. So I just want to throw that out there. That said,
and I'm only laughing because, like, okay, so I'm gonna go with it's probably true, right? That said, understood that it hasn't been backgrounded. Now I know there's an article floating that I didn't put in the sheet. The union kind of stepping up and saying we don't think this is what it was made out to be, right? Because it's out of context. But if you have a person who is running a school building, and whether this turns out to be not him, this is still an actual conversation, right? Like this is still a conversation that happened with regard to people who are sending their children through the public school system, right? And of course, it's always the kid's fault, right? It's the kids' fault that they're not doing well on the state mandated testing. We're not going to pay attention to the fact that the likelihood is you are a student who is living in a community that is very underserved, very over-policed, very much struggling to do the things to allow students to actually come into a school building with the ability to, you know, think and to go home with the right resources so they can study and they can read. Like, I just can't, for the life of me, get it out of my head that this is what is leading probably the majority of our public school systems, the majority of our charter school systems, definitely in the lead in colleges and universities. Like, these people who say things like, these people can't learn, right? These people can't test their way. Like, and as an educator, as somebody who literally my job is to walk into a school building and deal with students who are, and in my district, the majority of students are not underserved, right? But there's a small corner of the district that is in a neighborhood that is underserved and over policed, right? And I just, you know, this is why you have to be able to come together as a community and address these things.
So the version of me that I just showed in those pictures, that guy had spent a couple years from the end of high school till just after I came and left the Navy entirely. In that time period, I had a couple of homeboys, Gentile whites from that Baltimore County area. And I used to hang with them regularly. And so I learned, so everything I heard in that audio clip resonates with the cadence, the sound, the accent, the content, the whole thing of that white community, particularly the working class, because most of it is relatively working class, lower middle class is what I guess we would call it. And at least the part I was running in Catonsville, where I was with these kids, and you looking back now, I can understand it. There was this tension of, we're trapped between the Jews and the blacks. They had the Jews they felt were running everything. They had the black kids, in particular in Woodlawn, where I came to learn in some uncomfortable ways, actually, that there was this crazy hostility that I was walking into, because I was coming from Howard County. I didn't know this particular thing. And so that, when I hear that, I'm like, this is, and eventually there was two of them I was friends with, and I said, you know, we're going to, like, it went from we're hanging out till I'll hang out with you before you go hang out, to we're not hanging out anymore. And I just can't do it anymore. So yeah, but yeah, I heard.
Yeah, and not that you're
that.
like, I'm no longer shocked to hear it, right? Like, I guess I'm a little shocked that people forget that we live in a world now where
the wasps,
you could be recorded and put your behind put out there to be heard by everybody. But just the blatancy of it, right? Like, and this is someone who, in all likelihood, is the principal of a school and who has control over what resources are given to which students, right? Which students get the punishments, which students get, over policied in the school building, right? So this is just, I had to throw that on there when I heard it last night, because I was just like, this is just so, like,
And I'm interested. I do want to get back into that story because I am interested. So, what is the union going to? So what is the? Are they saying this is an accurate audio, but it's not the content? We don't have to do it now if you don't want. I'm just saying.
Let me find it, and then we can circle back and see like what comes out of this. Because this is relatively new. I think they just leaked this out to the public like a day or two.
Yeah, this is as far as right.
So I'm sure there'll be more that comes from it. So we can circle back to it definitely. Maybe we can have a conversation about education in general. Might be helpful in these things because I just, this is literally what happens, right? Like you walk into a building as a student, and if you're a Black student in a particular district, the minute you walk in, you're the problem. And there is no path to helping these students, right? So you have a student who maybe, mom and dad are both working 2 jobs. They're trying to maintain the household. You have siblings. You can't participate in things in and out of the school like most people because you got to get home to help with the family, or maybe you also have a job. You don't have internet in your house because it's too expensive. You might have a computer that the school gave you, but how are you going to use it at home if you don't have internet to access? Like, these are real life things that happen for students. And if you have all of those things going on in your house, and maybe sometimes you're not able to get breakfast, but both your parents work, so you don't qualify for free reduced lunch because your parents make too much money, even though they don't make enough money to sustain your household. So now you're going to school hungry. Like, there are all these things that are going on that no one ever addresses, right? Like, and what does that kid do? Right? Like, how do they, if they're going to the classroom, they didn't do the homework, so they know now the teacher's going to be on them because they didn't do the homework. So instead of going to class, they just hang out in the hallway because it's way more fun to hang out in your hallway with your friends than to go to class and have the teacher pick on you because you didn't do your homework, because your teacher doesn't understand that you can't do your homework because you don't have internet at the house. Right? So there's just so much to it. And meanwhile, you have the super racist opening charter schools in the South so that they can make sure that they can, educate the whites for free. You have arguments happening in states because they're trying to bring in these coupon programs and when you do the studies, you find out who's benefiting from the coupon programs: the rich people who are sending their kids to private school. That's who's benefiting from these programs. So there's literally like no situation that is set up to allow for students who really just need access to appropriate resources to do better, because no one cares about that, right? They just care about saying like they're lazy, they're stupid, they can't learn, they can't test, all these things. And nobody's ever looking behind the curtain to figure out why those things are the way they are. So sorry,
I just happened to be it's not. I just happened to be at this symposium this past. It turned out that the sister that was running it happened to have spent time here in D.C. working under, and then she said the name Michelle Rhee, and then just sort of paused to see what the reaction would be, and there was like these gasps, and because that name just represents terror. In terms of making the argument you're talking about against Black kids primarily in DC schools and justifying charter development. And so, and just, it's just ignoring all. We played Kwame Ture yesterday.
I sent that link right to my mama. I was like, Mom,
if you want to end, but what he said, if you want to end poverty, just give poor people money. It's like, everybody's clear. If you want to truly educate people, more resources, smaller classes, more well-prepared educators. But we were doing this preparation for my daughter's college, and they said Princeton has, the ratio is 6-1,
which is
for
wild.
Faculty to students. They have billions of dollars, and you get in there, and I know it's not exactly all of that, and whatever. There's a lot of flaws, whatever. But just that alone, I was like, oh my God. I mean,
it's unmatched. You
So,
can't match that if you don't, like it's unmatched. It's unmatched.
So
So
they don't want to address that. They just want to, as you said, blame it on testing, blame it on a culture.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's but again, of the many contradictions of the nightmare in Palestine is that it's I think a reminder of what in general those in power and many in white America in particular feel, which is if we're not carpet bombing you. We're not immediately right now in the old style lynching you. So you should basically stop complaining. Like, cause it could get like that. Like, you see that? It could get like that. If we're not doing that, you should chill. And everything that's not exactly that is they feel like they're doing us a favor. Everything is like another concession for, just as he sounded in that audio,
Right.
for them loud ass Jews and the ignorant black folks I don't want to be next to. It's just like, damn. And they're like, man, can we just wipe them all out? Can we, which is as you showed in the report,
right,
that they showed in the genocide report. That's really what they want to say. Like, and if they're not overtly doing that, they're like, oh man, damn.
Right. It's wild. It's wild. And then, this isn't on the sheet, but they caught Netanyahu the other day saying from the river to the sea.
Oh,
and wow. I'm like, so.
Well, they had already shown where his son was tweeting it like from years ago. Like
but every, this part of the issue with a lot of things is the memories of the public is so short, right? Like, and people don't read, right? They don't pay attention. They don't. They just don't.
You just don't read, beloved.
I was trying to go slow because I knew it was coming.
I know. It's StreamYard, please. I know you have the biggest of bags right now. Please just arrange the studio a little bit better so we could do more things without having to go through so many things. We should be able to set things up in certain ways.
Let it flow.
Yeah.
But so, people were so quick to jump on this idea that, from the river to the sea was anti-Semitic and it meant to destroy Israel and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And nobody knew that that's where it came from, right? Nobody knew that the full statement was Palestine should be free, right? At the end, like no one paid attention to these things and they just jumped on it. So this morning I was like, so are we going to stop pretending like saying from the river to the sea is anti-Semitic now? Like, can we drop that facade now?
No.
Or is it only if you say it on behalf of the genociders and the colonizers? That's the only time it's acceptable. Is that what's going to happen now? Like what?
Again, I mean, that was the just the connection to the previous story is that's the whole point. It's never to get to the honest and accurate assessment. Right. It's always to apply the nonsense and
So since we segued this way towards Palestine, did you notice that the UN Security Council released a statement telling the Houthis to stop? They have a resolution.
I mean,
again, like, so this is the problem, right? Like, so now and this happened on the day that South Africa, it was either the day of or the day Israel was presenting their oral arguments. But it was while the oral arguments were going on at the IJC that the Security Council, who can't at all, like, you can't say the word ceasefire, because the minute you start saying ceasefire, the US be like, veto, right? But we're going to make demands because it's security, right? And it's not safe for the international communities.
Because as it says, it's backed by 11, and of course, importantly, the right 11 members.
Right. And
the four
who did not back it, they didn't vote no. They abstained.
Mm-hmm. You know, honestly, I'm not going to go into it. I don't want to hold us up, but I just, in the recent vote that at the Hickory Ridge Village Board that shot down my attempt to get us to adopt a statement calling for an immediate ceasefire, what I learned was that abstentions actually end up working in favor of the proposal.
Really?
Don't obviously I shouldn't be quoted on this because those who abstained are entirely removed from the overall count of the total voting.
Well, I think it depends on
at least
where you are. I think it depends on I think it depends on your bylaws. I think
okay. So whatever the Robert Rules of Order or whatever it was just I'm sorry. So yes, you're right. So those who abstained actually ended up almost benefiting my effort. It was just that there were just enough who were saying no. Someone's
asking what abstaining does. So it depends. My guess based on what you just said is the abstains means, so if you start with 20 and your abstains reduces the amount of people who have to vote yes. So if normally you would have to have 11 and 6 people abstain, then it's actually out of 14. So now you actually only have to have, 6 or 7. No, it would
and
be
for some reason
14.
that part I never realized that the 6 who abstain are in effect removed as if they're not even there.
Right.
So it changes the total votes counted and changes again the amount necessary. So that was a part I was never clear on, and I never really understood how the abstention. So I thought it was simply performative when I would hear of this all these years, but there is a little bit more to it in terms of, or potentially in terms of how it plays. Right. So,
and for the UN Security Council, my guess is to abstain. It kind of leaves you out of, it releases you from the ire from the people who are voting whichever way they need the council to go, right? Like if you abstain, they can't get mad at you for voting against them.
I guess.
I mean,
I'm always like, if I'm getting my ass whooped and you just sort of stand there like I'm just not getting in it and you don't help me, you might as well been just as guilty. Like that's how I'm looking at it.
With
like
you on that.
That's how I'm looking at it. So I'm like, don't try to be like, I abstained while you were getting your head thumped in.
Right.
But obviously I'm such a novice that I don't even know.
Right.
I'm just catching up
to clarify,
this,
I wasn't saying that's how the abstention works in UN Security Council. I was just explaining it.
In fact, you were saying it probably doesn't.
I don't think
so.
It does.
I shouldn't apply my Hickory Ridge Village Board.
I think for the
UN Security
I think they just, if I remember correctly, they just need a majority and no veto. If I remember correctly.
But Algeria, China. Algeria and Mozambique are certainly not on they're not part of the whatchamacallit. So they can't. Let me just Algeria, China, Mozambique, and Russia abstained. They're the ones who abstained from the vote. And just so I could read it out, UN Security Council demands the Houthis to stop Red Sea shipping attacks. So they're demanding a ceasefire in the Red Sea, but you can't. But that's and it says cease the attacks immediately, said Linda Thompson Greenfield, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
I don't know.
Oh man, Renee, this is terrible.
I'm so sick of her, yo.
And we should remind everybody the very black and woman, Linda Thompson Greenfield. So
Mhm.
just in case we need all of we're checking off all the boxes. And she's still right along with the imperialism. And if I remember correctly, her background is that sort of, she did this for the corporate world in her I think her non-government work. She was that kind of like I don't think
She was
McKinsey
she
exactly,
was
but
the
a
black
McKinsey
face to make everything look like it was okay. The black
to try to help
the
corporations
black
around the world get policy to work in
so
their favor. So yeah, so that's very
right.
important.
So I wanted, I pointed this out simply because, they're so, and obviously the US is, all hands in and hands on deck for this nonsense. The idea that the Security Council was able to sit down and vote about this issue and be so clear about the dangers of bombing things, and so clear about maintaining peace and regional concerns and all these things, right? But they have none of that for Palestine, right? They have none of that for Palestine. You can't, the veto power is automatically going to kick in whenever you try to save the Palestinian people. And the fact that this happened while South Africa was standing before the ICJ, sorry, and putting forth their charge of genocide. And that while this is all happening, this is what the Security Council did. And I really, what I really hope is happening is I really hope that people are watching this contradiction happen in real time, right? That there are people who are watching this happen, who are taking note of the voices that are behind this literal genocide continuing, right? That no matter what Biden may pretend, or Blinken, or whoever may say about, we're trying to be cautious with the civilian population and all this stuff, you're still sending money, you're still sending bombs over there, people over there signing bombs to drop on people. They blew up an entire university, blew it up, like you would do when you're trying to demolish a building because you're rebuilding it, right? So that this is all happening before the world to see. And I am dying for this, for whatever happens next at the ICJ. I don't know why I keep getting that backwards. What happens next, right? The last thing that they posted said, okay, we have everything. Now we're going to go into deliberation and we'll make, we'll come forth with a decision. But for the ICJ, you have to have 8 votes. Yes. I don't even know how that's possible with who the judges are, right? South Africa gets a judge, and so does Israel. They both get a judge, but Germany's there, and France is there, and US is there, and now Israel. I don't even know if they get to 8. I don't know if they can get to 8. Mm-hmm. And then even if they decide, if some miracle happens and they decide to acknowledge this genocide, right? And they send it to the Security Council next, it's just going to get vetoed there. US not going to go along. And in the meanwhile, the Palestinian people are dying. And how many, I asked somebody the other day, at what point do we get to where the number is too high for people? Because I'm not understanding.
Again, those 9 pages said any number above 0 is too many to live. So there is no number,
right,
from their perspective that
right. So we
zero.
we're in the tens of thousands now, right? And not that even if they say yes, it's genocide, they can't really do anything, right? Like there still has to be someone else who steps up to actually physically make it stop, because Israel can just keep on going. And it's, even if they say now, like, yes, and you need to stop, right? It's still, the estimation is 4 years for them to decide that it's actually a genocide. I mean, if this can't keep going on, I mean, it can, but I mean, like, it 4 more years, that's wild to me. And you have attorneys now. Ricky just pointed it out in the chat. There's a group of attorneys from Chile who are bringing the case before the ICC. I didn't put a link to that because I found it in the middle of the night and I didn't want to list this too long. But so there are all these maneuverings happening, and in the meanwhile, every time something else pops up, there's another, this group is going to sue and this petition is happening and all these people are marching and all these things. And I recognize that we're very limited outside of Palestine for what we can do. But for everything that's happening, the Palestinians are still dying. Every day I search through my Instagram because I follow a young lady named Basan, and her posts every day start with "it's day whatever" and I'm still alive. And I want to cry every time I find her new stream, her new post, just to make sure that she's like still alive, because that's her life. Every day she starts out and says, okay, it's day 97 and I'm still alive.
The many that stick in my head is the one where the father is laying down to sleep with his son, I believe, and he's saying to his wife on camera that he wants to sleep like that just in case they don't make it. At least they will go together.
Yep. There was another one, a woman who said the whole family sleeps together. They move together, everything, because they've told their children that they'll just all go together. And I can't even imagine that world. And they're still, it's an ongoing battle. They're still resisting, as Ricky said in the chat. But, it's just, I don't know. I have no words. I have no words for it.
I don't know where you want to go next. I'm just thematically, I'm looking at the Yankees.
That was me. I was so mad. You can pull it up. This is old because this is from, I think, like 2 weeks ago. But so I grew up in New York, and I saw this. They put this out outside of the Yankee Stadium. This is a Bronx community organization for Palestine, and I'm blanking on the name of the organization. I think it's in the header, but they got after Richie Torres, which I thought was great. But in their post, they shared a link to the 2 Yankees players that have like this whole website selling stuff, and all the money's going to support the IDF. And I was just like, oh, really? Yeah, man. And I was like, Ricky wants to hear the song, FYI. She's mad that we're not.
Oh, okay. My bad.
It's less than a minute. We can let it play.
Bronx. And then you said that.
So it was in the Instagram post. I think I was just trying to share the thing that was going to be the quickest thing to get to. Did I not put the link on the?
You probably did.
It might there. Oh yeah, Together 18. It's there. It's there.
Of course it's there.
Of course it's there. And so my when I was a kid, my aunt worked. She was a chef, and she worked for CBS in the kitchens. And she used to get tickets to Yankees games. So we used to go to Yankees games all the time. And as someone who was born and raised in New York and went to Yankees games, I kind of held on to it just out of nostalgia. I don't really watch baseball like that, but whatever. But literally I saw this and I was like.
And whose website is this?
They are, if you go to the, yep, there you go.
Eric Reiselman and Harrison Cohen. These are actually Jews in baseball?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow, because the stereotype of stereotypes is, the Jewish athlete is rarity. And then here they go. Well, I mean, if you're gonna be, never mind. Let me stop before I get us all.
I'm like, don't get us.
Let me stop.
Don't get us.
My privilege only goes so far.
But I just can't. I can't do it. So.
But yeah, that's. So I wonder what. I do wonder. I don't follow baseball or sports much at this point at all. But I do wonder what the locker room is like. I am curious. Is everybody in there just quiet and in agreement? Is there anybody in there saying
quiet and in disagreement? I guess. I mean, it is very awkward to be, and this is my own literally like lived personal experience, to be in a space where I know people don't. One, there's a bunch of people who don't understand. Literally don't understand. They have no clue. They've read nothing. They've watched nothing. They just know that all of a sudden it started coming on the news after October 7th. And then there's another group who knows, but they're too afraid to say anything, right? Because that outside of our building, there is a contingent of community members who are for real Zionists and who are just waiting for an excuse to come and try and get you to lose your job. And then there's like me, who walks into my building every day with my keffiyeh on and who hangs it on the back of my chair. Right? Because
wow. Renee,
I just don't, I literally don't have it in me to pretend like I don't know. Right. And it's an uncomfortable situation. And I know that my opinion is not fully welcomed in all of these spaces. But I also know that I don't have it in me to pretend like I don't know what I know. So people have a choice with me, right? Don't bring it up, because if you bring it up, I'm going to tell you what I think. And you may not appreciate what I give you. Or if you're willing to hear it, like, feel free, and I can bless you with my wealth of knowledge. And I don't certainly know everything, but I read enough and I watch enough and I pay attention. But I find that a lot of people really are completely ignorant of the truth of this story. Like, they just don't know. And every now and again, I have to remind myself that it's a choice to not live in a bubble, right? It's a choice to not do that, to not just go through your day and just do the day-to-day things and not pay attention to the things that are happening outside of your space. And, every now and again, I'm like, man, this living outside the bubble thing sucks. It is not like I can't enjoy anything fully. Anything, like, for months now. Like, everything has like this code of how many people died today behind it. And it's not just Palestine, right? Like, I'm thinking about everything. I'm thinking about Haiti and the fact that they repatriated the person who's been in prison for 7 years. And I don't know if that's part of some grander plan that the US goes to destabilize, or if there's something else that I don't know. And, I sent an email to Professor Pierre to see if she would be willing to have a conversation about it. It's about the Congo and remembering that there was there was supposed to be like a class action lawsuit, and realizing that I never went back to find out what happened, and finding out that the judges were like, oh no, you can't sue these companies for this because, you know, they may buy cobalt, but they're not really behind what happened to kill your children and maim your children. And people literally, like, they're just going about life, right? Going to dinners and hanging out and doing the things and not thinking about it. And sometimes I wonder, like, is that better? Is it like, I don't want to be a person who lives in that bubble, right? Again, that was the choice that I made, but it's not easy. And it's not, honestly, it's not fun either, because I'm surrounded by a lot of people who are perfectly happy to live in their bubble and who don't want to have these conversations, and for whom, like, I know the minute somebody brings something up around me, I know I have people who like me and love me and all these things, but they're like, oh, you had to bring that up in front of Renee, you know, she about to get going, you know, because I just don't, I don't have it in me.
At this point, my limited experience outside of our political bubble is, again, with the Hickory Ridge Village Board. And I haven't felt that level of tension in a long time, because I don't engage. Again, that dude you saw pictured earlier also made a decision. One of the other decisions I made back then consciously was, I'm not arguing with white people about any of this ever. So if you're not already fully beyond ally and more to the category of comrade, I'm just not. That's why I had to tell my Catonsville crew, I can't do this anymore. We can't be friends no more, essentially, is what it was. But the other day when I raised that proposal, again, even before we got to raise it, first of all, it even had to go. I had to go through a level of challenge just to get it to be considered for the agenda. There was hostility to that, with that initial pushback of almost in reverse. I have some humane consideration of Palestinians as human beings, but after what Hamas did on October 7th, my being a Jew means that I can't stand and starting with the whole whose authority can be considered here.
Right.
And I know my response, they're not ready for, anyway. So it's just, but I just hadn't experienced that level of hostility. You could feel it in the room. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I understand, I'm not entirely, at least, unsympathetic to those who are in those spaces and give in, for lack of a better word.
Right.
I just, to your point, I just can't relate. I'll just have to, because I can't.
Right. Right.
What is this?
Sorry, that was me. I came across, it's in the chat, and it's something. So it was stated in the chat that the Palestinians are still trying to find their joy, which, you know, to me, Palestinians trying to find their joy it's a method of survival, right? If you can't, you have to find something to get through your days, right? Like, I can't even imagine it. And I feel like that's a little different than people being out in a space and, you know, celebrating, like the NCAA FBS championship, Michigan, and why did I just blank on the other team? Alabama. And there were so many people at that game, and they were like, there's no way any of those people, let me not say that. But in my mind, like being in that space, even as someone who like watched the game, I remember thinking to myself, like, I can't even really enjoy this right now. Right. And it's different. It's like in my mind, finding joy when you are literally going day to day, hoping that you survive to the next day is a matter of survival. You have to be able to do that.
Yeah,
to get to the next day. I just can't, I
mean, I think it's different. Palestinians particularly in Palestine who do whatever they are able to do to find whatever is to be considered joy is not the same as people over here who can, if they want to, turn it off and tune it out to the point where it's not even understood to be happening.
Right.
I don't think that's the same. I'm not. So yeah, but
yeah. And there's a lot of, what this has done is it's opened my eyes to a lot of random people on different spaces who talk about like pointing this out, right? Like I watched a reel and she's an American Jew and she was like, I want you all to understand the difference. Like I'm an American Jew and I can sit here and I can, edit my video and do whatever thing that I want to do. And every Palestinian that I watch on Instagram starts it by saying today's day number, whatever, and I'm still alive. They don't have the flexibility to edit their Instagram reels. So can we stop pretending like we're the ones who are in danger here? Like we're not the ones in danger. So it's been interesting, and it's also been interesting to watch people who've chosen to learn and to educate themselves about the history, right? I saw a young lady who was like, she did the whole thing. She did her visits to Israel. She went to her Hebrew school. She like the whole thing. And she was like, and 2 years ago, I went into the library and I checked out some books. And yeah, tell me that I'm not educated in my Judaism, but I can still understand,
that's, and again,
right? Like it's a choice.
Like, I hesitate in some ways to keep going here, but again, like I was raised particularly by a Jew whose part of her fury at all of this was that this is again being done in her name and making it hard for people with her politics in the Jewish community to be heard and exist even in their own families and communities.
Right.
I watched her experience being ostracized by her own family for this and other politics associated with race and other blah, blah, blah. So so the idea, again, as this person said to me in this email on our board, that's what I was like, you don't speak, like you don't have the authority here. Like, oh, you thought you were going to drop a self-reference as to your Judaism as no. you and then I'm like, and then her mother was in Palestine, was born in Palestine. Like I got all the, like you start putting it on paper. I'm like, what are you gonna say? What are you gonna say? No, at the end of the day, it just comes down to, as I ended the email to him, if you just want to support genocide, okay. I mean, say it. Right. Just say it. As your what I didn't include was as your colleagues in that report said it. Just say it.
Right.
But don't act like so. Again, but I have to put this in there. I do not at all want to be mistaken as saying that this is an excuse for Jews in the Jewish community to let happen what happened and not do more to stop what's happening in their name. But I just want to just throw it out there real quick. I'm not trying to go too far here, but yeah, okay.
All right, so let's move from murder and genocide in Palestine. Free Palestine, by the way. Let's move to murder here.
I was going to say something. I was going to,
Oh.
because at first it sounds like we're moving from the topic of murder and genocide entirely. No. We're just adjusting the geographic.
Yeah. Let's move geographically, as you said. So the MAP and Police Violence has completed their studies of 2023. And we are, yes, higher in police murder in 2023 than we were in 2022, which should not be a shock to anybody. But they really do such, they do for not like that. I don't know if anyone's ever gone to the actual spreadsheet that you can go through and you can toggle the data and you can search for whatever information you want. But that MAP and Police Violence website is a thing of, it's unreal. The amount of
I still haven't done that. And where is the?
It should be
which link? My fault.
No, the 2023 numbers are in 14 and 15. It's the first. That MAP and Police Violence.
Oh, there it is.
So, so this, I really encourage people to check this website out because it is a really in-depth collection of information on how police just kill people.
Look at this. Black people can't even be first. Can't be first anywhere. Can't have nothing. Getting out-killed by the native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders. Dang.
Oh, man. So now this is per 1 million people.
I know. I mean, I'm just
the numbers, y'all know me and my rabbit hole. So I did do some mathematics. Mm-hmm. And even though Black people are 13.6% of the population, we made up 22% of the number of people who were killed by police officers. So, just under double. If you are a white person, even though you make up 71% of the population, 39.3% of the people killed by police officers were white. Latinx is the most balanced, as close as, if we want to talk about being balanced with things like this, they're 18.9% of the population and 15.5% of people killed by the police were Latin. But this tracking of information that Mapping Police Violence does is something that people need to be aware of. And they need to look at this and they need to go into the filter. And they need to look, because they not only track, this is not just, the police went into the wrong house and shot you to death. This is also the police were involved in a high-speed chase and they killed 3 people in the car as they participated in this high-speed chase, right? It includes all of that. So it's important that people know that this website exists. In my opinion, I wanted to share because they did do their final compilation for 2023, and the number is, I think it's almost 100 people more than it was in 2022. And it's real simple. Like if you go where it says filter view, if you just go into that large link where it says 2023, how there's a caret there, you can do a drop down where it says police killed 1329 people. You can do that and change the year, and it'll change it right there on the screen for you. So it's a very well done site. They've done excellent work.
They barely took time off even for COVID.
Right. And I think they go back to if you go into the actual the actual database, which is in the background, I think 13 is the first year they started tracking. But
they're pretty consistent though.
Yeah. And they share links like where they got the information from. The methodology is in there. I mean, all the information is there so people can see the data. So, but it's, this to me is something that we should be aware of. You should be looking to see that this is not moving in the right direction. And I've dug back into my Cop City list, which is going to be a mind-numbing experience, I've realized, to see, where things are. And the cities where I found things, are they still in progress?
Spelled violence. Sorry, I spelled violence wrong, but you all know what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
The link is correct.
The link is correct, yes.
Don't go by the spelling. Just click the link.
So I've gone back in, and the first state that I went to, I'm going alphabetically, and I checked to see where Alabama was with their proposed facility that they were looking to build in Mobile. And I thought it was interesting, given that they found those 215 people buried in Alabama that nobody seems to have an explanation for. But so I was like, oh, it looks like this project has been stalled. Interesting. And then I kept scrolling. And of course, I discovered that it's not so hard to stall on your new project when the project in Semmes, Alabama, which is only 20 minutes away from Mobile, opened in 2022.
Oh,
Brand
wow.
new facility. So now I'm like, this project is going to kill me. So I'm not looking forward to this, to be honest. I'm really just not. But I did I got contacted by the National Lawyers Guild, and I text you to tell you. And they're interested in my research and looking to possibly do a webinar to talk about what are some of the legal steps that can be taken for communities who see these things coming. And so, yes, Mary did reach out to me, Ricky. And so, I'm jumping back into the rabbit hole because I do want to try and help with this, so that they can give some information out. But I will add, the person who contacted me is an attorney, and I asked them, so, there's this notion being kind of thought about of a class action lawsuit against the police associations. And is this nuts? Like, is this a wild idea and just not even like feasible? And the attorney's answer was, no, it's actually very feasible, but you have to find an attorney who's willing to do it. And so that is going to be, so that's going to be the trick. I really, if I had money like that, I would go back to law school just to do that. I would go to law school just to do that. I would go to law school to get my law degree and just do that. Because I don't know if you'll find anybody who's willing to put everything on the line, because you're going to have to put everything on the line if you get involved with something like that. And I don't know if anybody would be willing to do it, but I'm surely going to start looking now that I've had a person say to me like, oh, no, you can do that. Who's an actual lawyer.
What would be the cheapest route to a legit law degree?
I don't know. It's worth looking into, though. I mean, Erica said it too. Kim Kardashian did it. She got her. Is she like actually a lawyer now?
Well, and I had. So this came up around some parts around here once upon a time as a topic, and there was some discussion among some attorney types that what she was doing was a disrespect to the process. And people forget that, yeah, she did it, quote unquote, whatever, however, but she did it with the help of a lot of high-powered attorneys and a law firm, and it wasn't, I'm going to law school and it wasn't the standard. There was, I got to get the detail. I'm gonna bring it up again. It was some questions raised, but
yeah. I don't want to do it that way. I wouldn't want to do it that way. I would want to earn it the real, and plus I'm Black, so they're not gonna let me do it that way anyway.
Well,
probably, but
my point would be, well, that said, if she or you or anyone ends up actually learning how the law, particularly in your jurisdiction, works, then I'm sorry, I'm getting text messages reminding me that she also doesn't have a bachelor's degree.
Right.
It's so much hate. It's just hate.
Right.
I love it.
So.
I love it. But people think I'm the bad guy. I love it. Nah, man. She studied first with a law firm and passed the first exam, which is allowed in LA. So you got it. So yeah, she was able to sort of. But if she ends up, or you or whoever ends up understanding how the law works wherever you are, particularly in your area of expertise and focus, I wouldn't hold that pathway, if it was accessible to you, against you. Because to me, the point is, do you become legally qualified and then actually qualified to handle the work and make the arguments? That would be all that matters to me. I mean, but obviously you'll figure this out. But I think it's a great idea, and I do echo what's being said in the chat about your work being recognized. And I'm sorry, the texts are still coming in. It's like, y'all, I opened it, I ripped the Band-Aid off. But yeah, I'm not mad. It's rough when you put in the work and get that law degree and take bar exams with
it's a lot. Yeah,
babies in your belly.
I know a lot of attorneys, and it is not. That is not an easy path. But for me, if I could afford to do it, it is literally something that I would do just to fight this. I can't
read. She's right again. It's like she's like, man, you better get this out of here. You better get this.
And don't get yourself in trouble when you come off of the computer, man.
No, I'm good. I'm saying this is great. I'm like, this is. But yeah, no, yeah.
I don't know. So something to think on. So as we've put it out there, chat, if people in the chat, if you have somebody who might, be willing to throw their life and limb on the line for something like this, hit me up.
But that story does dovetail with something else you had me looking at from going a couple weeks back to that issue in because I just finished the documentary early this morning. No, I lost it. Silver Dollar Road.
Oh, you did watch it.
The dude says one of the victims who ends up getting out, and we can come back. You could tell the story in a second, but just when he says sometimes he doesn't even leave the house. He's so angry and unforgiving that he can't leave the house sometimes, and he just sits there and tears are coming. He's just like, I sometimes sit here and cry. I'm so angry. I can't. I was like, oh my God. I was like, that hit. But my point in bringing it up now is that part of the story is the abuse of the legal system in general, and then the
Right.
specific abuse of lawyers who would take huge chunks of cash from these folks just to look at the case and then say, nah.
Right.
Meanwhile, I've taken, and so they end up spending. So they needed a kind of they needed legal help.
Right.
But the amount of people who would take on the case was limited, and then there were those who would take their money first and then not
Right.
take the case,
And then not
which
do
is
anything. Right. So for people who don't know, so we'll backtrack now because it's definitely worth. So there's a documentary on Amazon called Silver Dollar Road that I really came across like by accident, looking for something to do while I was in one of my rabbit holes. And the documentary is about a family. The name of the road is actually Silver Dollar Road. And I think, is it North Carolina?
Yeah.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
So the family has owned this huge plot, like acres and acres of land alongside the water for generations.
Since one generation after slavery, as it was said.
Right.
Yeah.
And some uncle who lives not in North Carolina sold like his portion of the property to some developer. And then the developer started all these legal maneuverings to remove this family from this land that's been in their family for generations. And because it's all passed down, through wills and such, and it's all deeded through inheritance, they had this huge battle, and the brothers who were living on the land spent 8 years
for trespassing.
For living in the houses that they've been living on their entire lives because it's their family's land. And the story is so wild to me. And I thought back because a few weeks ago we talked about what was happening, in South Carolina and like all these places in California, all these places where Black people have been displaced, right? And this is yet another story of Black people believing that something belongs to them and then finding out through legal maneuverings that it could just be taken away. And just they could just tell somebody else, like, no, it's not yours anymore. No, we're gonna give it to these people now. And it is an interesting thing to watch happen. And I also shared, because now there's a conversation, like a policy conversation happening in North Carolina about, when you inherit land from family to protect land ownership. And it's interesting to see, again, going to our conversations with Geechee about policy and understanding like what the rules are in your community that have a direct impact on your material conditions. According to this article, this law could protect this family if they're able to get it to go through. And it can be clear and say I didn't go in too deep to read like the law and to understand what the policy is going to be. But this is a situation where if you can get the community behind supporting this family and putting a policy in place so that this family doesn't lose their generational land, then the community should be getting together to do this and organizing to this effort.
But there's the phrase, the battle with developers and investors. It's this, and then in the documentary you see, because pictured here, these are the two brothers that get locked up.
Right.
They show you there are a couple shots where they're showing, because the one in the flowered shirt is kind of the bout it brother. Like he's the one that's like, he's on camera ready to get into it with folks, with some of the white folks that were there. He was still talking, like even after incarceration, he was still like, that's why I don't come down here, because they know what I might do.
Right.
And I mean, he's saying, and then they show you, and this is where I thought immediately of Palestine, because there are these scenes where you see him going down to what was his waterfront, and it's dilapidated. No disrespect. It's not, it's dilapidated. They show like them in their housing in the rain. You're like, damn, why people shouldn't, no disrespect. People should not have to be living like that. But the shot is, they show where it's from a shot from behind him looking out onto the water, where on the other side you see him talk about the big houses that the white folks have bought and have, and you see them with their big boats out on the water having a great time. And then you pan back and you see where his plot is that he went to prison for. And it's this dilapidated little, and it's and then it's
and
like
it fell apart because he was in prison for 8 years. And the house was falling up, like storm. You have all kinds of stuff.
But to me, and I might have this wrong, but to me, what was going on in my mind was that is just the end part, because the initial part, and why I kept comparing it here, is that this is post-enslavement, people thinking they've bought up a little bit of land that they probably suffered on for however long for someone else, and then here come the rich white folks right back, and in your face, not only taking the best part, but then they have the resources and the ability and the public policy supporting them to develop it and to build the big houses. Where, even if we leave you with a little strip of land, you don't have control. You can't make money off of it. You can't build on it.
And he was a fisher, like he was a fisherman.
And then they end. That's what I was saying. Then they end with the nephew saying, "I'm a small shrimper. I can only go 3 miles off the coast." He said, I can't go 3 miles off the coast. I'm in the bubble. If I go out there with all the big ships, I will literally die. Because I can't be out there like that. I can't compete with them. And eventually my business is gonna end. I gotta start finding another business. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, again, and then people keep wanting to say, no, start a small business. He did start a small business. And then they come and wipe them all out. And then just if you go home, his uncles go home and they get locked up for 8 years. And the dude is saying, I got locked up, and I'm 52. He said, I got locked up at 52. And I'm thinking, God damn, if I had to do a bid now.
The niece is like, my uncle called, like, I'm about to go to jail. And I was like, what are you talking about? I mean, the story is, so somebody in the chat, just real quick. So somebody in the chat who this is the only thing that infuriates me about being able to see the full chat, is because people I block as me on YouTube get through on the chat through the app. So we're talking about private ownership through inheritance now, because if you are a Black person who as a slave got the land that you were previously working on, and your family 100 years later is being sent to jail because they are still living in the house that generationally they've lived in. We're talking about it now.
I missed whatever.
Don't go back to it. I just need to say it out loud. So, I mean, I get it. Like I had an argument with somebody on Twitter because they were talking about Palestine and Israel, and they saying, like, what we need to work to now is peace so that everyone can live together. And I wrote back and I said, so remind me how that worked for the Native Americans. And this fool really came back with some calculation of how many acres Native Americans have, and how it mathematically, registers to this amount of acreage per Native American. And I want to say, do you know how many Native Americans started here when the Europeans came? Do you know how much land they had before the Europeans came? And it's just such a nonsensical conversation, in my opinion.
In the 21st century United States, 2 Black men peaceably lived in their own motherfucking houses and got locked up. What are you talking about? Peace. This is not who's warring.
I can't.
And then look at the houses they were living in. That's not even, nobody should even have to do that.
Right.
That's not, no disrespect. No disrespect. That's not life. That's not living. That's not appropriate for anyone. And then to say that just doing that is an offense worthy of imprisonment. Good Lord. I mean, what?
Right.
And that's here.
Right.
Now.
Mm-hmm.
Talk
this
about
is not,
peace.
I can't. Deep breath. All right. So
yeah, really. Yeah.
All right. So let's go to the Boston police just because
it only gets better.
Because it only gets better. I can't. So, so the last time, well, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had this conversation about the Boston Police Association finally like getting their contract and the raises and everything. And so I had mentioned to you that there was a study about the Boston police. And so I had to find the study and share it with you because I felt like, it's worth sharing. They got a raise. They're going to get their overtime. They're going to hire more people. And they just going to keep on, treading on the necks of the Black people who live in Boston. So this was the study that I had briefly mentioned, and I wanted to share it because I did mention it, and I promised that I would bring it back and share the actual study.
Black people made up 70% of Boston's police stops, department data show. 70% of people stopped by police officers through the department's field interrogation and observation program throughout most of last year were Black, even though Black residents comprise less than 1/4 of the city's population. Again, if the goal is 0, then 25% is way too much. That's according to data collected by the police department, Boston Police Department itself, and reviewed by WGBH News that represents the first public glimpse in years into thousands of routine stops made by the BPD as part of its field interrogation program, which includes but is not limited to police actions known elsewhere as stop and frisk. Wow. 7,000 stops between January and September of 2019. So it's not even, that's 9 months.
I was going to say, I would just take note that this isn't even a full, it's not even a full year. Not even a full year. 7,000 stops in less than a year.
4% for white. 4%. Only 3% resulted in summons being issued to Black individuals compared to 4% for whites. So again, that should tell you white folks are the ones who need to be chasing down. It's them Boston whites. So even when, but that is, I mean, it's crazy. So even when it's less likely, first of all, it's overwhelming that nobody is getting a summons. Just to throw that out there for all these stops.
For all them stops. Right.
It's
right.
7% total that
right.
got a summons. And I don't even know if that leads to a full conviction or whatever. So I mean,
summons. Right.
It's just the summons. So, but still, it's the whites that are still, even at 30%, so 30% of the stops were white and still they outpace the number of summons. 70% are Black and only 3% are some. So it's a complete and total waste.
But they got their raise, y'all.
But that's why it's not a waste. I was about to say it's a waste, but it's not a waste. The legal system makes money. The courts make money. The jails make money. Everybody's making money. The debt and credit people who are now able to chase the Black people who lose work and time off of work and costs for all of this, chasing these summons and all of this and that being harassed.
Right.
They make money.
Right. And what
Oh, wow.
I should have looked at the numbers on Mapping Police Violence to see Boston in 2019. Maybe I'll do that just to check. But
That is.
yeah. So I shared that because it needed to be shared. And then so last month, Mayor Wu did a press conference where she, she's very emotional with her requesting forgiveness on behalf of the city of Boston for
Whoops.
Black men who were accused in 1989. And this was the white man who killed his wife and then blamed it on the Black people. And so,
there's a new documentary that I just saw about that.
Oh, is there?
Recently out.
Okay.
That goes into all sorts of details that I obviously don't remember, wasn't prepared for this morning, but did not know initially in terms of, I remember the broad strokes of that case, but I didn't remember, or I didn't know how sort of the depths of the corruption and the willingness to believe this dude and the harassment that obviously I should have known, but didn't really pay attention to the depths of the harassments of the Black Boston community in the aftermaths of the claim. I believe one or two people even lost their lives in the process of being chased or in the process of being harassed. I mean, it's all kinds of so yeah, this dude, and meanwhile, he's just gunning down his wife,
Right.
And then there were apparently all of these who now come out in the documentary to say, I knew something was fishy.
Of course. Now,
going back to my point about abstentions, I'm like, I'm not trying to hear that now. Don't tell me now that you knew then something was up, but you didn't do anything or couldn't do anything about it.
right.
So, but anyway, so here's Mayor.
Mayor
Why am
Wu.
I saying Michelle? I'm thinking of Michelle Reed.
Actually,
Mayor
I think
Wu.
her name might
Is
be
it
Michelle
Michelle?
Wu. It
It
might
is
be
Michelle.
Michelle Wu.
It is
Right,
Michelle
yeah,
Wu.
it's
So I was
Michelle. It
right.
is.
I'm right. Accused. So formally apologizes to Black men wrongly accused in 1989 for the murder of Carol Stewart, who was in fact murdered by her husband. And then he took his own life. Is that how I remember him ending it? I think that's because once he realized he wasn't going to get away with it and the walls were closing in, so to speak, he wrote a note confessing, and then did he jump in the water? I forgot exactly what he did, but he did something that he didn't have to face.
And Boston's
the
a hot
consequences.
mess, and Michelle Wu, she got all. I mean, she under fire from every direction. She can't get nothing right. But
But is it coming with money though? Is it coming with health care? Like, what is it? I see her handing a plaque.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's.
I can't imagine.
I don't know.
Accepting a plaque after all of that.
And the thing that kills me is, it's either the nephew or the son was like, we accepted her apology, and I was like,
no.
I want Africans to stop accepting apologies. I don't want no more apologies. None. No more. No more. But it just all points
debt
to
relief. Did they get their debts canceled? Like.
But all of it points to how useless armed agents of the state actually are, when it comes to actually providing a public safety and actually doing something with regard to, the violent crimes that have an effect on the material conditions of people within their communities. So, there's that. It's.
But Renee, I'm sorry, we shouldn't lose sight of one important thing that happened as a result of that horrific case. If we remember that once upon a time, before he went into whatever else he's doing now, Mark Wahlberg was a rapper. And remember, he confirmed his bona fides with the Black community by making reference to this incident in one of his tracks. And if I was better prepared and a better producer and having, whatever, I'd have it ready, or we'd have played it. But I can't find it right now. But he did make reference to it. And it was like his way of showing, don't get mad at me for being a white rapper. Because I'm down with the black struggle.
I can't stand you.
But I do remember he did make reference to it.
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't have any knowledge of Marky Mark's album. I mean, I know he did music, and I vaguely recall.
And the Funky Bunch, that's right. The Funky Bunch of Racists. That's a good pun there. That's Mark. Well done. Well done. Oh. That's David Silberg level puns right there. That sure is. That's a good one. You Silberged right there. Well done.
So while we continue to discuss the ineptitude of the armed agents of the state, let's go to Uvalde, because the DOJ,
more good news.
The DOJ has done their job. They they went in and they researched and they interviewed and they did a review of what happened at Cobb Elementary School, and they released a 500-page report that tells you nothing that you didn't know before you read the report, which is that the armed agents of the state in a community that was made up of a majority of Spanish-speaking residents did little to actually make sure that they had a policy and procedure in place so that when somebody walked into a school building and started to kill the children, they could do something to actually stop that from happening. So they do a lot of talking, and Obama's dude did a press release, and he did a press conference and talked about how hard and diligently they worked to do the research and to get a full understanding of what happened with that response. And what we get is that what happened is they don't care about the brown people, so they didn't have anything in place to do anything that was going to put their lives in danger in order to save the brown people. So, but I could have said that before reading this 500 and something page report, which I am not going to read. I will say very, very.
Yeah, good. I didn't get to this. I'm just looking quickly at the executive summary here, and
they did a lot of collection of information though. So, and I shared a link to an article, also next on the same line next to it. And
do they offer up a summary of their conclusions though? That's what I was hoping.
In every section there are recommendations of things that can be done. The recommendations make it clear that, you had this whole department running and getting paid and nobody was actually doing their job.
Wait, you might not have known this, Renee, because we didn't read this carefully and we don't know. You might not have known this, but there were several critical failures and other breakdowns prior to and during and after the Robb Elementary School response.
And I don't laugh.
Just breaking news here.
I promise you, I'm not laughing about.
I mean, obviously, we're not trying to be,
And I'm not trying to be but the absurdity that they wrote this whole report.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. My bad, Renee.
Just look.
The most significant failure was that that responding officers should have immediately recognized the incident as an active shooter situation, using the resources and equipment that were sufficient to push forward immediately and continuously toward the threat until entry was made into classrooms 111 and 112 and the threat was eliminated. Word. They should have recognized that it was an active. I'm sorry, Renee, but that is just
because it's mind
revelatory.
It's it is absurd. It's absurd, yo. And you needed a report. It's like when the DOJ releases these reports that say we found racism in the police departments. No shit, Sherlock. You needed to do a 2-year study to figure that out. I could have told you that. I could have been
Accordingly,
told
when a subject has already shot numerous victims and is in the room with additional victims, efforts first must be dedicated to making entry into the room, stopping the subject, and rendering aid to to victims. These efforts must be undertaken regardless of the equipment and personnel available to those first on the scene. If I'm reading that correctly, they're saying you punk who stood around thinking, waiting for this and waiting for that. You were supposed to go in no matter what.
right. But they're not.
didn't-
So, and this to me is like, this points very clearly to one of these broader issues that
Oh
I
wait,
feel
because
like
it
keeps. Look, I know, but
but
this is why I couldn't read the whole thing, because it is infuriating to read this. It's infuriating.
Because, by the way, this did not occur. That is, efforts must be undertaken regardless of equipment. This did not occur during the Robb elementary shooting response, where there was a 77-minute gap between when officers first arrived on the scene and when they finally confronted and killed the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Let me stop. That's
right. So the article that I shared is from is it Media? He writes and has a very small Arturo slide. I'm gonna blank on it. But
is this the same? I wonder if this happens to be the same Arturo who keeps dragging
no,
me on his
no,
YouTube.
no, no, no.
Is this
no,
not
no,
the
no,
same
no,
one?
No, different
okay,
one. Different
just
one,
checking. Okay,
different one. So
no
Arturo,
offense. Now I'm out for all Arturos.
Yeah. So that's a different one. Arturo does actually a really good job in some follow-up things that he does, and I follow his writings because I just feel like he points out things, and his perspective is usually spot on. But what he points out in this piece that I thought was worth sharing is they never name names in the entire report. They refer to everyone in this like third person way, like the officer or the sheriff or so no one is held actually responsible for their blatant lack of respect for the lives of these brown people who were under fire in that building. Because in the end, in my opinion, that's what it boils down to, right? You have a bunch of brown children. They don't even speak English. We don't need to, we're not going to put our lives in danger to do anything to save them. And that's why you had this fight outside, because which one of us is going to actually go in there and deal with this was the fight, because none of them really cared about going in to deal with it. They were perfectly happy to stand outside and to talk to each other while those children were getting massacred inside the building. And adults, my apologies to teachers and the children.
So I just, not that I disagree or I'm challenging this, but I'm curious because I haven't read enough of any of this, but do you happen to know what is meant by the intentional misinformation by local and state leadership?
So they actually broke down all the communications that were going on between the authorities and the people on the scene. And what appeared, and again, I didn't read it. I also didn't read it fully because I got so frustrated, but it appears that there was really a lack of information provided about what was actually happening inside of the building. So if you have people standing around who are saying, well, and I don't want to, let me not go too deep into this because I don't want to say anything that's actually incorrect. But in the end, they were not communicating properly with each other or with the people who were not on site. And so, what ended up happening was this big, massive, like, you do it, 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 and nobody did it. And then you ended with what you ended with. So, but Arturo does good work. And I just, his pointing, I got this, and it was after I had kind of perused through the report, and I was like, yeah, he's right. Like, they don't name names. none of these recommendations are things that are like mind-boggling, like, oh, well, this is something people really should do. A lot of it, from what I could tell, was stuff that should have already been in place and that they should have already been doing. But it was a group of people who were, getting paid to over police brown people. And so they don't really care about policy and procedure. They want their paycheck, and they want to be able to, stand on the necks of the people in the community versus actually providing a service that would be useful to their material conditions.
And it did look like he was saying that the names they were happy to name were, of course, the children, doing the roll call of the dead to with that sort of symbolic nonsense of, but the those who are apparently complicit or responsible are just 77 minutes. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
So
it's crazy. All right, so we're at 46. So we got 46. Well, you need to stretch. So we'll say we got about 9 minutes left at most. Do you want to quickly talk? Did you know about this farming thing? These farmers? Did you know about this story?
No. And again, as I was, please break it down. I was interested to see this on the run sheet again after meeting this economist this past weekend whose work is focused on the land lost, again, similar to the Silver Dollar Road piece, to Black folks and what is left available. So I just, but no.
So this actually,
and this you're talking about the Africans
going back to, so there are Africans who are being sent to Israel.
Yeah.
To work on the farm.
So this is, but so I didn't, but anyway, long story short is no, I did not know this. Kenya follows Malawi in sending farm workers to Israel amid Hamas war. I love this war.
I know the heading.
So
here's the general breakdown. So Malawi sent 200 and something people to Israel to work because between the people who have been pulled to go kill Palestinians and the people who left Israel, they don't have enough people to work the land. Apparently this is something that has been going on. You think, like, I'm telling you, see these things and you're like, wait, what is going on right now?
Come on, man. My God.
Yeah, right. So this has been happening for a while. There are actually reports from years ago of the living environment and situation of these people these young Africans who are sent to work these farms, and how dangerous it is and how awful their living situations are. But yet, we're still sending people, apparently. And then now you have all these African countries who are sending groups of citizens to Israel to work, to replace the labor that is no longer available to them because, one, they kicked out the percentage of Palestinians who were working the land and revoked their rights to work in those places. Two, if you had Israelis that were working the land in these dairy farms and so forth, they're now, too busy sending bombs to Palestine and to Gaza and doing atrocities in the West Bank. And so you had to replace them. And who are we going to replace them with? Africans. We're going to replace them with Africans. That's what we're going to do.
And because they've been permanently suppressed in the global economy, there's a permanent reserve labor force ready and desperate enough to go. So it's similar to what Kenya sending forces to suppress Haitians, right? Wasn't that recently happening too? So we just all this is
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Just go get wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say anymore.
Yeah. I mean, what can you say, really? I mean, really, what can you there's nothing we can say that's going, none of it can make sense. Like, you can't make sense of this. And, you know, I really want people to recognize that all of these things are happening because of the same people, right? It's always the same people, like marionettes, like, you know, it's the same group, US, Canada, UK, France, like same group. And they're always going to be the problem. And so there has to be, you know, there has to be a point where organizing and the people start to do something different. I've been trying to really watch what's happening in the Sahel because I find it fascinating, some of the things that are happening since the coups. There's some real actual efforts going. I did not realize that they were trying to create this whole electricity system between Mali and I'm blanking on the other country, but it's going to provide electricity to a portion of the world that has never had it. In
This the one, because there was a couple.
Oh yeah, there's a few, because this has been on our Saturday sheet for a while, because I was just I've been curiously watching what's happening. So first, because once Mali decided to leave G5, that whole anti-rebel alliance is going to fall apart, that G5, because essentially Chad and Merida were the only countries left. So it's going to disintegrate. But in the meanwhile, what had started to happen is Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have started to try and work together. And they announced a planning of a federation between those countries. And they're going to try and create their own security alliance, possibly their own financial system. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, what you find is a lot of stories telling you why it's not going to work, right? Why this is absurd that they're going to try and do this thing. Because, you know, nobody wants to give any credence to the possibility that African people can have some self-determination and do things that are best for their own people. But as of recently, Burkina Faso has started doing this work with drones and the agriculture that has quietly been happening, I think, for going on a year, that no one's really paying attention to. And it's probably good that nobody's paying too much attention to it, because then they can't disrupt it. But that's going to be interesting. There's an initiative, a $300 million initiative that is coming through Mali, and it's going to fund that electricity interconnection that I talked about. And there's a whole line that's being built. So there's just some things to look at that are happening in the Sahel region as they try to move away from, you know, France and being under the foot of those colonizers. So it's going to be interesting to watch. It's worth paying attention to. I noticed that Guyana has, you know, reached out to the US because they want military help. So,
yeah, is this? Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't get to that story. Is that in
it's
relation
there.
to their whole
We haven't, if you want to pull it,
Venezuela?
yeah, it's just the next step. They did meet. Venezuela and Guyana leadership met, and they had a conversation about not, you know, having it get to a military operation. But then the UK sent a ship, and so, you know, that's always going to cause concern, as it should. Whenever the colonizers come, the people there should be concerned. But it's just interesting. There's a lot happening. And it's difficult to pay attention to all of it because there is so much. But, you know, I like to throw things out there so people have an excuse to go check things out and see if they can find information out on their own. But we're getting it's 55 now. Real quick, happy birthday, Frenchie. Yay, happy birthday.
Oh, I didn't see that. Happy birthday. Right on. Happy birthday.
And I think Ricky should go on EYL and just tell Diallo I told you so. Because I want to see it happen.
So I'd be cool with that. I haven't paid enough attention, and I would be interested to see where everybody is a few months later.
Yeah, it's worth looking at, because there's actually some things happening now that they've booted out the colonizers, and it'll be interesting to see how it all continues as time goes. But it's definitely worth paying attention to, and people should pay attention to it. So.
Right on.
All right.
Well, Renee, thank you very much.
We got through a lot of that run sheet, man.
We did it. I mean, I need a stretch. I was working hard. But no. Another great show. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Everybody will see this later. Thanks to you as well. Please like, share, subscribe, do all the things to help the platform. We will be back next week with more Saturdays with Renee, and make sure you got the bell rung so you don't miss anything. And peace if you're willing to fight for it, like Fred Hampton used to say. And yeah, that'll do it.
That'll do
for
it.
Another edition of Go Stretch, and that'll do it for another edition of Saturday with Renee.